What's good? It's Wardale Wilson. Today I'm going to show you guys how I remade Tailor Swif by A$AP Rocky. Alrighty, so let's get started. Now, off the top, I know that Hit Kid sampled this from something. I just couldn't find exactly where that sample was. And so, as any other producer would do, I just remade it myself. So we would start with that sample part. And that's a few elements there. So firstly, we just have, and this is in Logic stock, a Chinese Daisy flute. That's it. Now there's a part where that and the strings, the octave changes, and I'll discuss that a little bit later. But I just kind of kept it stock as far as there. I cut off some of the low end around the 4 to 500, just because I know I was going to need that for some of my kick and bass and other goodies that come in later. And it came with this limiter on there. I kind of like what it did because it made it sound a bit more full. So it just kind of gives it life. And then the RC20, this is like the secret sauce. I just love that anything that you want to sound like a sample or like vintage, that old saturation sound, it does a really good job of doing. And so with that on here, and I'll cut it off so you can hear how it sounds without it. And then back on. So it just gives it a lot of life. And then the final thing that was added with that flute was just the Valhalla reverb. Pretty subtle. This is my favorite reverb for any kind of instruments, sounds and things like that. It comes in handy. Just gave it about 20% on the mix. Added a little bit of delay at about 2. Left everything else the same. And that's it for the flute. Now to the strings, and I'll solo that. And same thing, later on it'll change in an octave. But this was all just stock in Alchemy in Logic. So you go into strings, all analog smooth. I actually kept it the same, just as the rich texture. The only thing that I changed was there were some effects on there that I took off, some of the modulation effects, just to get it as dry as possible. And then also on the EQ side of it, I cut off at close to 200 and then cut off some around 6K because I know that's where my flute was going to sit at, around that spot. So if you hear them together, sounds beautiful to me. Now, with that original sample, if you really listen close, you can hear this subtle bass line that's going. And let me solo this. All it's doing is this. And pretty much just throughout the sample. Now with that, I went into Logic's basses, Coffee Shop, Monstera, and all of this was actually stock on there. Only thing I added was the bass amp. I put it on the 60s combo preset, and I'll play it without that amp on there. And then adding it. This gives it that funk that you want, you know, that a lot of those like 60s and 70s samples had. And then this part's really subtle. There is a super subtle harp in the back. I couldn't play that harp quite like that to get it as smooth, so I just found a sample in Splice and just cut off some of that low, cut off that 8K. I wanted it to be as subtle as possible. Added a Valhalla verb to that too. And here is it in the context with everything else. Also, it's panned about 30 to the right, and so. And then the last thing for the sample aspect of it is there was like, I could tell it was a sample because there's a drum pattern. And that's all it does. And I just went into Logic Drum Kits, Bluebird, but any old sounding drum would suffice. I kept everything the same. I just literally added a tremolo effect to get it to kind of, I noticed that it would pan back and forth a little bit. So alrighty, now getting to the fun stuff. And again, the flute and the synth, they just went down an octave. Starting with the 808. And there's that little pause that they have in the middle of the song. Just a standard 808 from Splice. I did add a saturation plugin. Soft Tube Saturation is actually a free plugin, so you guys should download it. It's pretty legit. It's really good for like basses and even some kick stuff too. But it pretty much does that throughout the song. Also, I put an EQ on here. I know my kick was gonna sit at around 300, so I wrote off some of the rumble, lifted it at around 100 to get some of that meat out of the bass, and then a subtle drop at 300. And then the kick is actually playing that same pattern. The secret to really making a kick knock, and I wish I knew this way before. So in Logic, fat effects, and then you turn everything else off and you have this hard clipper on there. And that's a game changer for kicks. I'll play it without it. And then with it, it brings out the power in any kick that you have. On top of that, I pretty much just boosted a little of the 2K to get that that high end in the kick, just to complement that 808. Because I'm not really a fan of side chaining unless if I just have to, but that kind of just helps, gives each sound its own pocket. And then I added an overdrive to it, which just gave it a little more warmth too. And if we take that off, and then with it, and that's how you get those hard hitting kicks. And then with the 808, perfect. With the clap, it's basically just a basic clap. I recently started using Step Sequencer, and I feel like I've been missing out on life. I used to manually do all my claps, like literally on the floor. I would just play it. Now what I do is just sequence it in, and then let me solo that. But that's all it's doing. And for simple claps, it's perfect just to sequence it in. And you can go even in here and like go into repeat and slide down. I'll show you with the hi-hats later, but you can slide down and have it do a roll if you want to. And that's so much easier than just manually playing it. But just a standard clap. I added that same saturation plugin on there, that Soft Tube. And then added some Chroma Glow. Just a little bit, like 5%, something super subtle. And if you hear it just dry, and then with everything, and then with the kick and 808, and then on top of that, there is a snare that plays the same exact thing. Same plugins and everything. And I'll mute the hi-hats and you can just hear that in the context of the beat. This beat's really fairly simple. Honestly, it was A$AP Rocky's vocal performance that really makes it stand out, because if you listen to the original song, his vocals, the way that he pans them and does the layers, it's really dope. Also, watch the music video for this original song for Tailor Swif, because it is wild. It's one of my favorite videos of the year. Moving on to the hi-hat, all it's doing is and this is what I was saying about that row. You can literally say if you wanted it here. That's so much easier than opening your note repeat and having to like do it that way. You just key it in and you're good. And I used to make fun of all the FL people that would do that. Now look at me. But here's all the drum parts. And then here is that with the beat. And as far as the arrangement, pretty much the kick and the snare go off here, and so it's just your clap and your hi-hat and 808, and everything else is just turned down an octave. And that's when it starts to really hit hard back again. Y'all know what I'm about to do.
Yeah. Lately, been pacing off the Miller and Red Chief, that's Weddy. Y'all chase WAP, I keep one eye open like Betty. No wonder their career is in the air like confetti. We ain't taking no shots, my dogs already vetted. Some of y'all been sketchy since Ed and Eddie. Kick habits, that's messy. Till your kick game become Jet Li. No twin flame, it's just me. Still Zetsy when I catch Z's. Gotta get my numbers up, tryna catch speed like jet skis. Ready for the function, don't know when the sun's lit. Locked in, treat the studio like a dungeon, a mosh pit. At the Furio, we rambunctious. A talk whiz, put them words together like conjunction. Stop it.
Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end, please like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. Peace.